The Lord's Prayer is something I've been pondering a good bit lately. And one of the reasons it's come to mind, I think, is because at Red Door Church, we've been trying to do a little bit more congregational prayer. Normally, I guess it's been a part of our liturgy for many years, maybe something historical going way back at our church, that we would have this moment during our service called the pastoral prayer. And I think people desire to hear their pastor pray. They desire to, have their concerns prayed for publicly, maybe by someone who they feel has a close connection with God, someone they respect, someone who's in that position, and that, to do that in a way that maybe they feel is more powerful or something. And I think that's good. I'm not making light of that. I'm not judging that idea negatively or anything like that. But what's happened of late is we've really tried to open the floor up a little bit more during that time of pastoral prayer and make it really more of a time of congregational prayer together. Of course, I pray as well, and I'm happy to do that, to lead us in prayer and to express my heart before God in that way. But we really want to encourage others in our congregation to do that too. But what's become very apparent is that people's concerns or burdens in prayer seem, at least to me, in some ways, to maybe even contradict, in a way, the very things that we're praying when we say the Lord's Prayer in unison at the end of our congregational prayer time. So in the Lord's Prayer, we pray things like, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then, you move into more of the earthly concerns of, give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, and so on and so forth. All of which, of course, right off the lips of Jesus, expressing, things in prayer that are right to give to the Lord and to express. However, the order, I think, is important. Jesus, in the Lord's Prayer, begins with, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He begins by, at least suggesting to us what I think, in the order, suggesting maybe what's most important, what should be maybe the first thing on our heart and on our mind. And of course, Jesus says those things should be that God's name would be hallowed, that His kingdom would come and that His will would be done. So in other words, the spiritual needs, the spiritual realities of God's kingdom and of what His purpose is and His desire is for the world, those things should be upon our hearts first. And then the more practical things of our, financial concerns and our health and well-being, physical well-being of our family and our community, things like that, should be secondary to those primary concerns. And I find that during our congregational prayer time, it's exactly the opposite. In fact, what's mainly on people's hearts is prayers for family healing, prayers for health concerns, prayers for finances, prayers for these very travel mercies, or things along those lines. And people don't seem to be, or maybe they are, they just publicly struggle to pray for it. I want to give the benefit of the doubt. But it seems that people are not as burdened for the salvation of people in their family or their community, or that our hearts would be pure before God, or that we would understand His Word rightly and His will and His truth, and that our personal sins and struggles, that God would help us to overcome those, that we would learn to love our enemies, that God would give us a boldness in sharing Christ with others, that God's kingdom would come and that hearts would be softened and that, of course, in it all, that God would get his glory, that God would be glorified in us, and so on. So those don't seem to be as much maybe a priority for people in prayer as other things like, physical health and travel and being able to pay our bills and things like that. So just something that's hit me a lot as we've tried to move from a time of more than just hearing the pastor pray and into a time of the congregation praying. These are observations that I've made, and so my prayer is that God would help us to not just recite in unison these words of Jesus in the Lord's Prayer, but to reflect the priorities of Jesus in the way that we pray every day and when we gather as a congregation on Sunday. So maybe something to ponder and to reflect upon in your own prayer life. Take care. God bless.